the recent talk of Clinton helping out Warren, political suicide for Warren, and if it does happen and she drops out, would she endorse Bernie? Well, first off, second question last, I imagine she would endorse Bernie. It would be shocking if she didn't, frankly, if she dropped out. I don't know. I think I would imagine the story about Warren helping out, or Clinton helping out Warren, I imagine is at least founded in some reality. I mean, part of what Warren's sales pitch is that she works the inside game as well. So I would be surprised if she wasn't, it's not like Hillary Clinton is going to come back and do anything, but it is also of concern, when there are areas that Warren is soft on, that Hillary Clinton is bad on as well. If they were meeting about, like how, I've come around on the bankruptcy bill, Elizabeth, how could they could have made that better? Or, I liked one aspect of your debt-free college thing, and I'm going to incorporate, if these are the things they were talking about. But when you see a clip like this, Emma Vigeland was down in, where's she, in Houston?
I think in
New Hampshire. Covering early primary state. And here she is. I think she's up in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the Democratic convention in Concord. And she got a question that she asked Elizabeth Warren. And I have to say that, I think it's quite clear Elizabeth Warren's worst attributes are in regard to foreign policy. And the military in this does not in any way assuage those concerns. Here it is.
I asked Senator Elizabeth Warren about her record when it comes to the military budget and foreign policy, which some from the left have criticized her on, I think with legitimate cause. And this was her answer. You have focused a lot on progressive domestic policy. You also voted for a military budget increase in 2017. How does that square with your progressive politics when we're talking about foreign policy?
If the question is, do I think we should cut the military budget, the answer is yes. And I'm now on the Senate Armed Services Committee. I've had this fight over and over. But there's another part to it, too. We need to stop the control over our defense budget that's exercised by the giant defense industry. As you know, we now have a Secretary of Defense who spent 7 years as head lobbyist for Raytheon. I asked for some simple conflict of interest rules that he would abide by. For example, not to make decisions that involve Raytheon and Raytheon's bottom line. And he refused. The Republicans confirmed him anyway. But this is what corruption is all about. Putting lobbyists in charge of our government agencies, a lobbyist, former lobbyist in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency. This is the heart of corruption. And the moment has come to call it out and to fight back. That's what being in this room was all about.
So she starts by saying, if the question is, well, do I want a smaller military budget? The answer is yes. And that's great. I'm in favor of that. The question was, when you were in a position to reflect that desire by your vote, why didn't you vote that way? Now, I mean, I suppose she could have come up with an answer, well, we had to vote for that because we had other set of priorities that we wanted to pass or whatnot. But the way in which she avoids this question is problematic. It's problematic. I mean, at one point you cannot decry the corruption that exists there and then vote for the product of that corruption. I mean, that's the point, right? Like, it's not just that there's corruption and we're worried that we're sending our boys and girls out to war with, faulty body armor, which in some instances we do, and is a problem. But it's basically a trough, an ever-expanding trough where interests that don't really help anybody except for themselves keeps feeding at. And I don't understand how you can vote for the continuation of the expansion and the feeding at that trough and then say, I'm going to stop the things that are driving that. Well, it ends, all of the problems you have just listed ends with senators voting to increase the budget.
And she's voted.
That seems to be a choke point.
Every single increase including there was one budget under Trump where they actually gave them more than was requested. And I want to give people, there was a really good piece that was written back in 2015 called Warren Takes Care of Defense Business Back Home. And it actually goes especially into her direct relationship with Raytheon, which is a major, it's a massive industry in Massachusetts, but it's a huge contradiction and it's structural to her career, which is why she, just literally didn't answer the question. She didn't even say, look, I voted the wrong way.
Right, that's what I just said.
I've had, like you said, I've had parochial interests, but now there's something else I'm trying to do. She just did the classic kind of disingenuous hard pivot.
Hey, speaking of disingenuous hard pivot,